You know that feeling? I mean, it's 8:30 p.m.
Right.
You have just finished a completely brutal workday. The kids are finally asleep, or, the relentless stream of emails has finally paused for a second.
Yeah, you finally get a moment to breathe.
Exactly. And you sit down at your desk, you double-click that familiar W icon, you log into World of Warcraft, and your character materializes in the capital city.
And you're looking for that escape.
Right. You want a wave of relief, a grand sense of adventure, maybe just a little bit of escapism.
Sure.
But then you open your map.
And it is a nightmare.
It is completely flooded. There's this sea of blue exclamation points, weekly event timers, world quests just blinking at you.
Faction grinds demanding your attention.
Yes. And your chest actually tightens. Like you feel this bizarre, very real surge of anxiety about falling behind in a digital world.
Which is wild when you think about it.
It really is. So you spend the next 45 minutes just flying from icon to icon, running some dungeon you don't even enjoy just to fill a progress bar. And you log off an hour later feeling like you just clocked out of a second job.
And the important thing to establish right up front is you are not alone in feeling this way.
Definitely not, which is why today's deep dive is entirely focused on this. We started looking into the academic demographic data, specifically from Kennesaw State University.
Yeah, alongside some really fascinating behavioral research on gaming habits.
Right, and we combine that with Blizzard's own design notes for the War Within expansion. And honestly, a fascinating, albeit slightly alarming, picture emerged of exactly why this game is stressing you out.
It really did.
So our mission for this deep dive is to build a survival guide for the busy professional, the parent, or anyone who just wants to enjoy World of Warcraft on a strict, limited schedule.
Because it is possible.
It is. We're going to unpack how to transform this notoriously time-consuming world from a stressful chore back into a relaxing, sustainable hobby.
And to fundamentally change how we interact with the game today, we have to look closely at why the traditional way of playing is causing so much burnout in the first place.
Right. Didn't just happen out of nowhere.
Exactly. The game did not just arbitrarily become a source of stress overnight. The root of the issue actually lies in a massive demographic shift that has occurred over the last 2 decades.
Basically, we grew up.
We grew up, and the game had to grow up with us.
Now, there's this pervasive narrative on the community forums and, the classic WowW subreddits that the game itself fundamentally broke at some point.
Oh, yeah. The good old days argument.
Right. They usually point to the end of the Wrath of the Lich King expansion around, 2010?
That's usually the timeline, yeah.
The common refrain is that the developers ruined the social fabric of the game, and that is why players feel disconnected or stressed today.
But the demographic data paints a much more personal, biological picture of what actually happened.
Wait, biological?
Yeah, it points to a profound shift in the player base's life stage. If we look at the numbers compiled in that Kennesaw State University study, as well as Nikki's extensive work on the Datalist project,
Okay.
the profile of the average player is striking. When World of Warcraft launched in 2004, the player base was predominantly male, around 84%, and skewed heavily toward teenagers and young adults in their early 20s.
Which makes sense for 2004.
Right. But fast forward to today, and the average age of a WowW player is 31.29 years old.
Wow, 31.
Yeah. The dominant active cohort, the largest single block of people logging in every single day, is between 25 and 34 years old.
Okay, so full-blown adult.
Exactly. And interestingly, the highest actual playtime bracket, like the people logging the most hours per week, are those between 50 and 57.
Really? 50 to 57.
Yeah, which likely represents early retirees or maybe empty nesters.
Okay, so the industry didn't just cycle through a new batch of 19-year-olds. The teenagers who were raiding Molten Core back in 2004 are the exact same people logging into the War Within today.
Precisely. Just with 20 years of real-life responsibilities piled on top of them.
Mortgages, kids, back pain.
Yeah, all of it. And that biological aging introduces what behavioral researchers term a physiological bottleneck.
A physiological bottleneck.
Yeah.
What does that mean in this context?
Well, consider the baseline of free time available to a 19-year-old college student versus a 35-year-old professional.
Oh, it's night and day.
Right. The legacy design of early World of Warcraft required 20 to 40 hours a week just to maintain a roster spot in a dedicated raiding guild.
Yeah, I remember that. You had to farm specific elemental resistance gear,
Grinding rare herbs for consumable potions.
spending an hour simply coordinating travel to the dungeon entrance because nobody had the flight path.
Exactly. And when your entire player base hits their late 20s and 30s, that 40-hour requirement hits a brick wall.
Because it becomes mathematically incompatible with building a career, maintaining a marriage, or, raising children.
You literally do not have the hours in the week.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit more. Because playing back in 2004 was an endurance test, sure, but we had the endurance for it.
Right, you were younger.
Playing WoW back then was like being in college. You could survive on cheap pizza and zero sleep. If a dungeon took 5 hours because people kept getting lost or the server crashed, it was just part of the adventure.
It became a core memory.
Exactly. But today, a 5-hour dungeon disaster triggers a full-blown existential crisis about your calendar.
Oh, absolutely.
You sit there calculating the sleep you are losing and the chores you are neglecting. But wait, let me push back on this slightly.
Sure.
That doesn't entirely track with the actual updates Blizzard has made over the years. If you look at the patch history, modern WoW is exponentially faster.
It is faster, yes.
Right. They added the automated dungeon finder to make grouping instant. They added account-wide unlocks, teleportation networks, catch-up gear mechanics.
All true.
So the game is supposedly infinitely more convenient now. Why are people still burning out if the game is basically handing them back their time?
And that is the great paradox of modern MMO design.
The paradox.
Yes. The automated systems did make the logistics of grouping faster, obviously, but they fundamentally altered the psychological environment of the game.
In what way?
Well, the essay we reviewed for this deep dive, Beyond Wrath, details how this convenience replaced slow, meaningful social friction with a fast-paced, high-pressure, hyper-optimized mentality.
Meaningful social friction. I like that phrase. In the original version of the game, putting together a group took a significant amount of time and effort.
It was a whole project.
Right. You had to stand in a capital city and advertise your group in a chat channel. You had to manually whisper people, negotiate who was bringing what crowd control abilities.
And then everyone had to physically walk across a highly dangerous continent to reach the summoning stone.
Yeah. And because of that upfront time investment, players were highly incentivized to be patient with one another.
Exactly. If someone accidentally pulled an extra group of enemies and caused the group to wipe to die, you didn't just kick them out.
Because finding a replacement would take another 40 minutes.
Right. So you sat down, you ate virtual food to regain your health, you talked about what went wrong, and you tried again. You learned together.
But when the Dungeon Finder automated that entire process into a single button click, players became instantly replaceable.
Completely replaceable. If a healer makes a mistake now, they are kicked within seconds.
Because the system will just instantly teleport a new healer into the dungeon to replace them. The healer is no longer a human being you met in the tavern. They are just a utility.
And this creates a completely different kind of mental exhaustion. The game shifted from being a slow social journey into an optimized, high-speed performance metric.
It's like you are running on a digital treadmill.
Yeah.
Every stranger expects you to know the mathematically perfect route through a dungeon and execute your class rotation flawlessly.
Yes, the convenience saved players time, but it cost them their connection to the world and to each other.
And the Beyond Wrath essay illustrates this perfectly with a concept it calls the Q Goblin.
Oh, the Q Goblin, yes.
Right. This is the modern player who joins a random group via the automated finder, doesn't type a single word of greeting in the chat, sprints ahead to pull half the dungeon, dies instantly, blames everyone else for not keeping up, leaves the group, and instantly queues for another one.
The Q Goblin is a symptom of a structure that penalizes patience.
Wow. Yeah, it really does.
If you are a busy professional who has carved out exactly 1 hour to relax, encountering this kind of behavior completely ruins your session.
Because you simply do not have the time to sit through toxicity or absorb the stress of someone else's impatience.
Which really highlights why our fundamental mindset about logging into this game needs a total rewiring.
We have to change how we think about it.
Yes. Our biological clocks have changed, our calendars have changed, and therefore our relationship with the game systems must change.
So we have to reframe the game entirely. We need to stop treating it as a second job with a digital clipboard of tasks and turn it back into what the sources describe as a campfire hobby.
A campfire hobby, exactly.
But the game itself is actively working against that mindset, isn't it? The modern reward structures are deeply rooted in behavioral conditioning. Look at systems like the Great Vault and the Trading Post.
Oh, those systems are masterful examples of operant conditioning applied to digital environments.
Can you break that down for us? How do they work psychologically?
Well, take the Great Vault. It is a weekly reward matrix. If you complete a certain number of raids, or a certain number of Mythic Plus dungeons, or a certain number of delves, you unlock slots.
Right. And at the end of the week, those slots give you a choice of high-level gear.
Exactly. And the Trading Post operates on a similar but monthly scale. You complete a traveler's log of various specific activities like completing quests, killing certain bosses, doing minor cosmetic tasks.
All to earn a specific currency that buys limited-time cosmetics.
Right. On the surface, that sounds like a healthy reward loop. You play the game tracks your varied activities, and it rewards you for your time.
But there is a catch.
Psychologically, yes. These systems transform the game into a relentless calendar of obligations fueled by loss aversion.
Loss aversion. That's the cognitive bias where the pain of losing something is psychologically twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining it, right?
That is correct. If you miss a week of the Great Vault, the system makes you feel as though you have permanently lost potential player power.
You've fallen behind a mathematical curve.
Exactly. It heavily leverages the fear of missing out. And this ties directly into the Bilyeu study on gaming motives that we reviewed.
Right. The researchers in that study identified several distinct psychological drivers for why people play MMOs.
Yes, they listed advancement, mechanics mastery, socializing, discovery, escapism, and teamwork.
And if a player is driven by the wrong motives, those weekly and monthly checklists stop being fun bonuses and become psychological traps.
The Bilyeu study specifically found that the motives most strongly associated with problematic play, addiction, and severe burnout are advancement and escapism.
So if you are logging in purely to see your item level increase, or if you are playing specifically to avoid dealing with real-world stress, the game's endless checklist design will completely consume you.
It will. The Great Vault provides a never-ending sense of advancement, but it is a hollow one. You will keep pulling the lever on that digital slot machine long past the point of actual enjoyment.
Because the behavioral loop demands it.
Exactly. Conversely, the study found that the healthiest, most sustainable motives were discovery and teamwork.
And that takes us right back to the Beyond Wrath essay. The author wrote this really powerful line: Azeroth is better when it is not a cage. It is better when it is a campfire.
I love that quote.
Me too. When you approach the game driven by advancement and FOMO, it becomes a cage. You are locked in. You must fill the vault. You must cap your trading post currency before the month ends.
But when you treat it as a campfire, driven by discovery and teamwork,
you just sit down, enjoy the warmth and the stories for a bit, and then you get up and walk away when the fire dies down. You don't owe the campfire your time.
Beautifully put. But reaching that state requires a profound shift in perspective. You have to stop optimizing the fun out of your leisure time.
So what does this all mean for the listener who wants to play tonight? How do they stop the game from turning into a checklist? Let's give them some practical application.
Okay, the immediate behavioral intervention is intentionally limiting your scope through subtraction.
Subtraction.
Yes. You must actively and ruthlessly choose what you are not going to do. And the most consistent and perhaps the most difficult piece of advice we found across the academic time management guides and the veteran player forums is the absolute necessity of killing your alts.
Wow. Okay, the strict no alts policy.
Yes.
For anyone less familiar with MMO terminology, an alt is an alternate character. So you might have your main character, say, a warrior that you focus your primary efforts on.
Right.
And then you have alts of different classes, like a mage or a priest that you play on the side for variety.
And the research, along with the community consensus, strongly dictates that casual players with limited time must enforce a zero-tolerance policy on playing alternate characters.
But why? Is it really that bad?
The mathematics of the game's reward structure makes it entirely necessary. If maintaining one character takes 3 hours a week to complete the bare minimum checklist of weekly quests and a few dungeons for the Great Vault, then maintaining 3 characters takes 9 hours. The chores don't scale efficiently, they multiply linearly.
Oh, I see.
This leads directly to a phenomenon heavily documented on Blizzard forums known as alt fatigue.
Alt fatigue?
Right, where players feel overwhelmed not by the difficulty of the game, but by the sheer volume of repetitive maintenance tasks required across their roster.
But wait, Blizzard is well aware of alt fatigue. And they actually built the entire marketing campaign for the War Within expansion around solving it.
They did.
They introduced a massive system called Warbands, pitching it as the most alt-friendly expansion in the history of the game.
The Warband system is a fascinating piece of design, absolutely. But we need to analyze what it actually accomplishes.
Well, looking at the official feature overviews, Warbands link all your characters together in a very literal way. They actually sit around a campfire together on the login screen.
Which is a nice visual.
It is.
Yeah.
And they now share a massive Warband bank tab, so you don't have to mail crafting materials back and forth. They share travel unlocks, so if your main character discovers a flight path across the continent, your alt instantly has access to it.
Even reputations and achievements are account-wide now.
Right. They also introduced a loot category called Warbound Until Equipped, meaning if you run a dungeon on your main and get a sword you don't need, you can place it in the shared bank for your alt to use.
It's incredibly convenient.
It seems like Blizzard completely solved the time sink problem of having multiple characters. So why kill our alts if they just made it this easy?
Because while they absolutely reduce the friction of the leveling and gearing process for the busy, time-strapped adult player, that convenience is actually a highly sophisticated behavioral trap.
Wait, really? If the systems take less time, how does it become a trap?
Because removing friction removes the natural barriers that used to protect players from overcommitting their time.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that.
Historically, if you wanted to play an alt, the thought of grinding a faction reputation from 0 to maximum all over again was a massive deterrent.
It really was. It was terrible.
It was a friction point that made you say, I don't have time for this, I'll just stick to my main. Warbands completely remove that deterrent.
Right.
The behavioral guides we reviewed point out that when you are motivated by the advancement metric and the game suddenly makes advancement easier, you don't play less.
You don't say, great, my chores are done faster, I'm logging off.
Exactly. You say, great, it's so easy now, I have time to maintain a fourth character.
It's like going to an all-you-can-eat buffet when you only have 15 minutes on your lunch break.
That is a perfect analogy.
The restaurant owner comes up and says, good news, we've made the plates twice as large, and we moved all the most popular food right next to the entrance, so you don't have to walk as far.
The food is incredibly easy to access.
Right. But just because the food is there and it's easier to grab doesn't mean your stomach can hold it. And it doesn't mean your 15-minute lunch break got any longer.
Exactly.
If you pile everything onto that giant plate just because you can, you are going to make yourself sick and you're going to be late back to work. You still have to choose one main dish.
The psychology of artificial abundance drives that exact behavior. In environments of abundance, FOMO thrives.
Fear of missing out.
Yes. When every cosmetic armor set, every class mechanic, and every trading post reward feels easily obtainable, it begins to feel like a test of your identity as a dedicated player.
So you stop making choices based on joy and start making choices based on anxiety.
Precisely. You log in to play your mage, not because you had a sudden burning desire to cast fireballs, but because you realize your mage hasn't unlocked their weekly vault slots yet.
And it would be a waste of the warband efficiency not to do it.
Exactly. To combat this, the behavioral research suggests establishing a season identity.
A season identity. Okay, how does that work?
Before you even open the battle.net launcher, you make a conscious decision about who you are in the game for the next few months. You set one primary goal.
Like, for example, experiencing the narrative campaign from start to finish.
Perfect. Then you set one secondary goal.
Perhaps farming one specific rare mount from an old dungeon.
Right. And once you establish those two pillars, you create an explicit ignore list.
An ignore list.
Yes.
For content in the game.
Yes. The ignore list is arguably the most crucial psychological tool you can deploy. You have to formally give yourself permission to miss out on content.
So you skate, clearly and intentionally. I am playing one character this season. I am ignoring the trading post. I am not running Mythic Plus dungeons.
By naming the activities you are choosing to avoid, you strip away their psychological weight. When you open your map and see those blue exclamation points, they are no longer pending tasks.
They are just background noise that you have already decided doesn't apply to your season identity.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's say our listener has fully committed to this philosophy. They have their one main character, they have an hour to play tonight, they open the map, they successfully ignore the noise, and they are looking for an activity that is highly efficient, satisfying, and deeply respects their time.
Right.
Based on the sources for the War Within, all signs point to one specific new feature: delves.
Delves represent a fundamental shift in how World of Warcraft approaches its endgame content, specifically catering to the exact demographic we are discussing.
Let me set the stage for Delves. They are 10 to 15-minute, bite-sized adventures seamlessly integrated into the open-world map of the new continent, Algar.
Yes, very accessible.
But what makes them so revolutionary is that they are entirely role-agnostic.
Which is huge.
Traditionally, nearly all meaningful group content in this game requires the holy trinity of MMO design: a tank to absorb damage, a healer to keep the group alive, and damage dealers, or DPS, to defeat the enemies.
Right, and because the vast majority of the player base prefers to play DPS, those players often spend 20 to 30 minutes just sitting in automated queues waiting for a tank or healer to become available.
Delves remove that structural bottleneck entirely.
Completely.
You can walk into a delve completely solo. You can walk in with a friend who plays a healer while you play a healer. You can go in with 3 DPS players.
The system dynamically scales the difficulty and the mechanics based on who is present, without requiring a specific team composition.
But the true draw for the busy professional is the progression efficiency. Let's talk about the gear.
Okay, so if we look at the legacy gearing pathways, the time commitments are staggering.
Absolutely. If you want top-tier gear from Mythic rating, you are committing to 10 to 20 hours a week, locking yourself into a rigid schedule with 19 other people, usually on Tuesday and Thursday nights.
And if you want that gear from Mythic Plus Keystones, you are committing to hours of highly stressful, timed dungeon runs where a single mistake can ruin the entire session.
Delves offer a parallel progression track that respects time limits. The design notes indicate that if a player completes a Tier 8 Bountiful Delve, which is a slightly harder version of a standard delve, and unlocks the chest at the end using a coffer key.
They are rewarded with item level 639 champion track gear.
Which is incredible, and these coffer keys are earned simply by participating in light, weekly, open-world activities.
Furthermore, completing these higher-tier delves unlocks slots in the Great Vault that reward item level 649 hero track gear.
To translate that into practical terms for our listener, that is character power equivalent to what players earn by defeating bosses on the heroic difficulty of the current raid tier.
It is an astonishing return on investment.
A solo player, engaging with the game for maybe 2 to 3 hours a week in strictly 15-minute increments, can acquire gear that used to require joining a dedicated raiding guild and sacrificing your evenings for months on end.
Yes, it really bridges that gap.
But here's where it gets really interesting, and let me play devil's advocate for a second. Veterans of the game will hear this and immediately feel a sense of dread.
Because of Torcas.
Exactly.
Right.
We have seen a system like this before. During the Shadowlands expansion, Blizzard introduced Torghast. It was also a soloable, role-agnostic, rogue-like mini-dungeon.
Right.
And it is widely regarded as one of the most hated features ever introduced to the game. So why are delves fundamentally different from Torghast?
The Reddit community feedback we analyzed focused heavily on this exact comparison. The catastrophic failure of Torghast and the anticipated success of Delves hinges on the concept of player agency and the dichotomy of mandatory versus optional progression.
Mandatory versus optional. Okay, explain that.
In Shadowlands, Torghast was not an alternative path, it was a mandatory funnel.
Oh, right, because it rewarded Soul Ash.
Exactly. It rewarded a specific currency called Soul Ash, which was the absolute only way to craft legendary armor pieces.
And because legendary armor was tied exclusively to Torghast, every single player demographic was forced to run it.
Yes. If you were a hardcore player versus player gladiator, you had to grind Torghast. If you only cared about mythic rating, you had to grind Torghast.
By forcing everyone into this narrow corridor, Blizzard had to constantly adjust the difficulty and mechanics to accommodate every skill level, which ultimately made it feel like a tedious chore for everyone.
But delves are entirely optional.
So if you love raiding, you can get your gear from raiding and ignore delves completely.
Right. If you only play PvP, you ignore them. They exist purely as an endgame pathway for the solo or casual player who wants meaningful progression without the massive time commitment.
There is another crucial design choice that elevates delves above other endgame systems, particularly for parents or professionals who are on call.
The absolute lack of a timer.
Yes. The timer is the defining psychological pressure point of the Mythic Plus dungeon system.
Oh, without a doubt. In Mythic Plus, the entire reward structure is predicated on a ticking countdown clock.
You must clear the dungeon, defeat all the bosses, and kill a specific percentage of enemies within a strict time limit, usually around 35 minutes.
And if you fail, the keystone you used to start the dungeon is downgraded and your loot rewards are diminished.
That ticking clock creates an incredibly toxic pressure cooker. Let me paint a picture for the listener. Imagine a scenario. You are a parent of 2 toddlers. You put them to bed, you log in, and you join a Mythic Plus group.
Okay.
10 minutes into the run, one of your kids wakes up crying. In a Mythic Plus dungeon, if you stop moving, type for a kid crying, and walk away from your keyboard, you've just destroyed the timer for 4 complete strangers.
They will be furious.
They will. You will likely be kicked from the group, the keystone will be depleted, and the entire 45-minute session is wasted, leaving everyone angry and frustrated.
The game design in that scenario artificially pits your real-life ethical responsibilities against your virtual social obligations.
It forces a choice between being a good parent and being a good teammate, which is a terrible feeling.
But Delves remove that conflict entirely. Because there's no timer, the difficulty stems purely from the combat mechanics of the enemies, not an arbitrary Russian clock.
So if your child wakes up crying while you are in a delve, you simply defeat the immediate enemies in front of you, step your character into a safe corner, and walk away.
You go be a parent for 20 minutes.
And when you return, your progress is exactly where you left it.
And to make it even more forgiving, you have an NPC companion named Bran Bronzebeard who accompanies you.
Bran Bronzebeard is a brilliant addition for solo players.
He really is. You can customize his role to complement whatever class you are playing.
Right, so if you are playing a fragile damage dealer like a mage, you can configure Bran to act as a healer, and he will actively throw healing potions to keep you alive.
Or if you're playing a sturdy, low-damage tank, you can configure Bran to deal damage. He even levels up and gains new abilities.
And that progression is shared across your entire warband, rewarding your time investment without punishing interruptions. It's the ultimate dad mode content.
Truly, you get the thrill of combat, the dopamine hit of high-level loot, and the flexibility to pause your game at any moment.
But WoWly is fundamentally an MMO.
Yeah.
A massively multiplayer online game. What if the listener does want that campfire camaraderie we talked about earlier? What if they want to play with others, but they absolutely cannot commit to a rigid 15-hour-a-week schedule?
Are they doomed to play solo delves forever?
Yeah, how do they engage socially?
Not at all. However, achieving healthy social play on a limited schedule requires a complete shift in how you seek out community.
Okay, how so?
You have to abandon the hope of synchronous serendipity.
Synchronous serendipity.
Yes, the idea that you will magically bump into kind, patient, like-minded players while using random automated cues. Instead, you must actively pursue asynchronous community building.
Asynchronous, meaning planning ahead.
Exactly. And in the modern era of the game, the primary tool for this is the newly expanded cross-realm guild system.
This is a monumental technical change that undoes 20 years of restrictive design. Historically, your guild, your primary social safety net and friend group in the game, was strictly locked to your specific server.
Right.
So if I played on the Storm Rage server and my coworker played on Area 52, we could not be in the same guild. We couldn't share a guild bank or easily coordinate our schedules in-game.
Those arbitrary technical boundaries fractured communities and made it incredibly difficult for real-life friends to play together casually.
But the War Within completely erases those borders. You can now join a guild regardless of your home realm, and in many cases, regardless of your faction.
And for the busy professional, finding the right cross-realm guild is the ultimate tool for maximizing the efficiency of your limited playtime.
Now, calling a guild an efficiency tool sounds slightly counterintuitive. I mean, most people associate joining a guild with signing away your evenings to mandatory meetings and drama.
Sure, that's the stereotype.
So how does it make a limited schedule more efficient?
Because relying on the random group finder is mathematically and psychologically the most inefficient way to play the game.
Okay, walk me through that.
Consider the life cycle of a random dungeon run. You spend 10 minutes scrolling through a list of groups. You apply to 5 of them. You get declined from 4 because your arbitrary gear score isn't perfectly optimized.
Right.
You finally get accepted. You wait another 10 minutes for everyone to physically travel to the dungeon entrance. You pull the first boss, someone makes a mistake, an argument breaks out in chat, the tank leaves, and the group disbands.
You have just spent 45 minutes and accomplished absolutely nothing.
Exactly.
It's the difference between trying to hail a cab in the rain versus scheduling an Uber the night before.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
One leaves you stressed and waiting, entirely at the mercy of random chance. You might wait an hour. The other gets you exactly where you want to go, when you want to go, with zero friction.
Yes. When you join a casual scheduled community, often referred to in the ecosystem as a dad guild or a learner raid Discord, you coordinate your gameplay asynchronously before you ever log in.
You check a Discord channel on your lunch break and say, I have exactly 1 hour to play on Thursday night at 9 p.m. Does anyone want to run a dungeon?
You log in on Thursday at 8:55 p.m. You join a voice call with people you already know and trust. You instantly step into the dungeon.
You clear it in 40 minutes because communication is clear and mistakes are met with laughter rather than toxicity.
You get your loot, you say the night, and you log off at 9:45 p.m.
And the academic research supports this, right? The Bellevue study noted a fascinating correlation here.
It did. Players whose primary gaming motives were guild affiliation and teamwork actually demonstrated better overall progression and gear acquisition than players driven purely by solitary advancement.
So social play isn't just more fulfilling, it is literally a more efficient vehicle for experiencing the game's content.
However, the behavioral guides emphasize a massive caveat to this approach.
There's always a caveat.
Social play is only efficient and only healthy if it operates within strictly enforced boundaries. The camaraderie of a guild is fantastic, but it is also the single most common reason a carefully planned 45-minute session accidentally mutates into a 4-hour marathon.
The dreaded just one more run mentality. It is a trap we have all fallen into.
When there are real human beings involved, people you genuinely like and enjoy spending time with, the social pressure to conform and extend your playtime is immense.
Right. If you finish a dungeon and your group's tank says, hey, we played really well, my keystone just upgraded, let's do one more real quick, it'll only take 30 minutes, it is incredibly difficult to be the person who says no.
Breaking up a successful group feels like a social failure.
Which naturally leads us to the final and undoubtedly most critical aspect of surviving WoW as an adult. We have discussed limiting our scope by killing alts. We have identified highly efficient solo paths like delves.
We have explored the efficiency of scheduling cross-realm guild runs.
But absolutely none of that matters if you do not know how to log off. We have to establish an exit strategy. How do we create a shutdown routine that actually works when the game and your friends are begging you to stay?
This requires shifting our focus away from the game's design mechanics and looking at the hard science of time management and habit formation.
Okay, let's get into the science.
The ultimate goal is to forcefully prevent the game from crowding out your sleep schedule, your real-world relationships, and your physical health.
Right.
The most effective psychological tool for this, drawn directly from behavioral research, is the use of implementation intentions.
Implementation intentions. That sounds like a corporate buzzword. What does that actually look like for the player staring at their character selection screen at 9 p.m.?
An implementation intention is a highly specific, predetermined plan made before you are exposed to a temptation.
So, not a vague goal.
Exactly. Most people rely on vague goals, like New Year's resolutions. I am going to play less WoW tonight. Vague goals fail because they require you to make decisions in the heat of the moment, when your willpower is lowest.
You should never log into the game with the mindset of, I'm just going to see what there is to do.
If you do that, the game's behavioral conditioning will present you with 50 urgent tasks, and you will get lost in the noise. Instead, the time management guides suggest writing out a specific 4-line note before you ever open the application.
Wait, like a physical note?
A physical sticky note on your monitor or a typed note on your phone, it must contain 4 concrete elements: goal, lane, stop time, and shutdown action.
Goal, lane, stop time, shutdown action.
Okay, let's walk through a realistic scenario. What does that note look like in practice? It looks like this. Goal: I am going to complete 1 Mythic Plus dungeon with my guildmates. Lane: dungeons only. I am not checking my auction house listings, and I am not doing any world quests. Stop time: 10:15 p.m. shutdown action. I will use my Hearthstone to return to the capital city, repair my armor at a vendor, log out of my character, and completely exit the battle.net launcher.
Specifying a lane is incredibly insightful.
It keeps you focused.
Because the hidden danger of a massive open-world game isn't just the difficulty of the primary task, it is the constant, low-level drift.
The drift is real.
You log in with the intention of running a dungeon, but on the flight path to the dungeon, you spot a rare enemy on the ground, so you land to kill it. Then you notice a rare mining node nearby, so you run over to gather that.
Then a world quest pops up in the same zone.
Right. And before you know it, an hour has passed, your bags are full of random items, and you haven't even formed a group for the dungeon you logged in to do.
That drift is precisely what generates the feeling of WoW W being a second job. You are constantly reacting to minor artificial emergencies designed to keep you engaged.
So implementation intentions work because they completely remove the need to negotiate with yourself.
Yes, you made the decision about what you were going to do when your head was clear before the dopamine loop started. When you are emotionally engaged, tired after a long day, or feeling the social pull of a group, you simply execute the plan you already wrote.
No plan survives contact with peer pressure.
Fair point.
We just established how wonderful and efficient playing with the guild can be. But what happens at 10:15 p.m. when the plan says log off and your guildmates, who are your actual friends, start begging you for that one more run? Come on, it'll only take 20 minutes. We really need our healer to finish this up. Saying no in that moment feels like letting people down.
It is incredibly difficult, which is why habit formation experts explicitly recommend utilizing external friction tools to protect your boundaries.
External friction?
Willpower is a rapidly depleting resource, especially late at night when decision fatigue has set in. You cannot and should not rely on willpower alone to enforce your stop time. Instead, you use the tools provided by the platform itself to create soft social boundaries.
Like what?
A primary example is Blizzard's built-in appear offline feature on the Battle.net launcher.
Oh, I use that feature constantly, and it is a lifesaver for social anxiety.
It is a phenomenal tool for boundary enforcement. If your predetermined stop time is 10:15 p.m., then at 10:15 p.m., as soon as the dungeon finishes, you tell your voice chat, "Great run, everyone! Thanks for the group, I'm out for the night."
And then you immediately set your Battle.net status to appear offline.
Exactly. Even if you decide to spend your last 5 minutes in the game quietly organizing your bank vault or doing some relaxing solo fishing to wind down, you will not receive whispers from friends begging you to join another group.
You remove the temptation by removing the access.
Yes.
But the sources we pulled actually highlighted a much more extreme external friction tool that genuinely blew my mind.
Oh, the parental control.
Yes. They suggested that adult players who know they struggle with late-night binge gaming should utilize the Battle.net parental controls on their own accounts.
It sounds absurd on its face, doesn't it?
Completely absurd.
But psychologically, it is an incredibly robust strategy for someone who recognizes that their late-night willpower is consistently failing them. The Battle.net parental control portal allows an administrator to set hard, unchangeable limits on what hours a game can be accessed.
You can literally configure your account to lock you out of World of Warcraft completely at 11:00 p.m.
You are literally parenting yourself.
You set up the schedule, you give the administrative password to your spouse, your partner, or a highly trusted friend, and you tell them not to give it to you under any circumstances.
And when 11:00 p.m. hits, the screen simply goes black.
The game forcefully disconnects you and tells you it is bedtime. I know some veteran players will hear that and scoff, thinking it's childish. But honestly, if it protects your REM sleep, prevents you from being exhausted at a 9 a.m. meeting, and keeps your real-life relationships healthy, it is a massive mature victory.
It perfectly encapsulates a line from the time management guide. Healthy social play is not always available. It is reliably available inside known windows.
That phrase should be the mantra for the campfire hobbyist. You are reliably present, you are fully engaged with your friends while the fire is burning, and then you are reliably, definitively gone.
Beautifully stated.
Now, we have to address the reality of human nature. What happens when the plan fails?
Because it will fail occasionally.
Right. Let's say our listener does everything right. They write their 4-line sticky note. They swear they're going to stop playing at 10:14 p.m. But they get into a terrible group for their dungeon.
It happens.
People are making mistakes.
Right.
The run takes an hour instead of 30 minutes. They get frustrated. They want to end the night on a win. So they join another group.
And suddenly, they look at the clock and it is 3:00 a.m.
Yes. They are exhausted, their eyes hurt, they feel a crushing wave of guilt, and they have to be at the office in exactly 5 hours. How do they handle that relapse without spiraling into self-loathing and uninstalling the game in a fit of rage?
The research on habit formation, particularly the extensive studies conducted by Dr. Philippa Lally, offers a deeply comforting perspective on failure.
What does she find?
Her research demonstrates that one missed repetition or one bad night where boundaries collapse does not meaningfully destroy the process of building a habit. The acute danger is not the lapse itself. The danger is the emotional spiral of guilt that causes a person to abandon the routine entirely.
So the goal is to not beat yourself up. You don't view a 3 a.m. binge as a moral failure, you view it as data.
Exactly that. You treat the failure as a diagnostic signal. The behavioral reset script following a lapse should be short, analytical, and devoid of emotion.
Walk me through that reset script.
First, you name the specific trigger that broke the boundary. I stayed up until 3 a.m. because I got angry that we failed a keystone, and I impulsively joined another group to fix my bad mood.
Okay, that's honest.
Second, you actively shrink the scope of your next session to rebuild confidence. Tomorrow, I'm only going to log in for exactly 20 minutes to do one solo delve and nothing else.
Shrink the scope. I like that.
And third, you restore the external boundary. I will ensure the appear offline feature is engaged the moment I log in.
It is entirely about maintaining a sense of agency and control over your leisure time. But it is important to state clearly, if you continually try to implement these boundaries, and you keep losing control anyway, and the real-life costs keep compounding.
Like your sleep is constantly suffering, your mood at work is terrible, your partner is frustrated with your absence.
Right, then the sources are very clear. You have to stop treating the issue as a simple time management or discipline problem and start treating it as a behavioral health problem.
You take an extended definitive break, you step away from the keyboard entirely.
World of Warcraft is undeniably a phenomenal piece of media. It is a deeply immersive, culturally significant world that has captivated millions of minds for 2 decades.
But it is engineered from the ground up to consume as much time as you are willing to feed into it. The systems will never tell you to stop.
You have to be the one who sets the portion size.
I think that is the perfect encapsulation of everything we have unpacked today.
Enjoying World of Warcraft on a limited, busy adult schedule is not just theoretically possible. By stripping away the filler, it might actually be the most rewarding way to experience the game.
It absolutely can be.
But it requires a radical, intentional shift in how you engage with the systems. It requires treating Azeroth not as a cage of weekly obligations, but as a campfire you visit occasionally for warmth and camaraderie.
It means taking full advantage of incredibly efficient, pausable, solo-friendly systems like the new delves.
It means ruthlessly enforcing a strict one-main policy and actively slaying the alt-fatigue dragon.
It means seeking out a cross-realm dad guild that respects your time and plays asynchronously.
And most importantly, it requires military-grade shutdown routines, utilizing external friction and clear intentions before you even hit the play button.
If you can implement those boundaries and stick to them, the game effortlessly transitions from being a source of ambient anxiety back into a source of genuine joy, discovery, and relaxation.
Which is the whole point of a hobby.
Right. But I do want to leave our listener with a final, somewhat provocative thought to ponder over the coming days. We spend a lot of time analyzing how to manage the game's systems, but sometimes the most revealing question is the one hiding beneath the surface of our habits.
Lay it on us. What should we be asking ourselves?
The next time you log into the game and you feel that intense, panicked urge to complete a digital checklist or to spend 3 hours farming an achievement that you don't even enjoy doing, pause.
Just pause.
Take your hands off the keyboard, step back from the screen, and ask yourself a very honest question. Are you playing this game right now to have fun? Or are you just trying to artificially manufacture a sense of control and accomplishment in a virtual world because your real life currently feels chaotic, unmanageable, and overwhelming?
Oof, that is a heavy, essential question.
It is the ultimate diagnostic question.
And if the answer is the latter, if the game is just a control mechanism for real-world stress, that is your immediate cue.
Close the map.
Ignore the endless sea of blue exclamation points. Step away from the desk, prioritize your real life, and only return to Azeroth when it brings you joy instead of a job. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We will see you next time.